What's up, Internet Land? Zachamus Prime, aka Zachamus Prime, here with another Transformers third-party review, and the figure we're reviewing today is the DNA Design Arashi. Their this is their repaint of Susanoo, which was basically their version of, I forgot what the Bandai figure was called, or not Bandai, what the Hasbro figure was called. Basically, Hasbro came out with a figure, and his name will come up eventually, but he was, green and orange and yada yada yada. And then they repainted that figure as Bonsaitron in this blue and gold and green. And then DNA Design is like, oh, we're gonna make a more samurai version of that first figure. And then they're like, well, Hasbro repainted it, why don't we? So they did that. This is the repaint, and it is functionally the same as the original Susanoo. I don't have a Susanoo on me to review. I actually could probably get one if I wanted to, but now that I have this, there's really no point to it. But anyhow, it's not a bad figure. It's really finicky. I think it kind of defines finicky. I talk about finicky figures, and I think I'm going to start using this as my base design for it, because this figure is made up of a lot of parts. Oh, what's the technical term for that? Fuck ton. It is made up of a fuck ton of parts, and it's just really finicky. You everything wants to move, and even the things that you don't touch want to move, and it's just kind of odd. Also, his rashes don't ever seem to agree with where I want them to go, and I mean, his range of posability is really good. It's kind of a finicky figure. But that's not terrible, and finicky figures still look great, like great, on your shelf. So this is definitely a very good shelf figure. This is not a very good put it in your hand and play with it figure, which, again, is not a deal breaker for a figure. I have figures personally that are shelf figures, and I love them. So, but let's get into accessories for a little bit. He comes with quite a bit of accessories. First and foremost, he comes with this bag of parts, which is an alternate face, which I have not pulled out of his little baggie at all, because it's not my figure. This is on loan to me from my friend Mike. And this face is a lot similar to this face here. If you were to change them out, you just kind of yank on this one and it comes right off. And then you would put this other one back on. And they are similar faces. I almost want to say that this face is the same sculpt as the optional pre-order or bonus, or maybe it was crowdfunded, the DNA Design one. I remember there being a special face that came with the DNA Design one, and I think this might be the same as it. I'm not sure. Then he also comes with, these are replacements for the shoulders, and I was not aware that those are prone to damage. If I had to guess, I would say that this mechanism right here is what's being replaced. So if that wears out, or if whatever, or if you just don't like it to begin with, you can replace them. If this were my figure, I would choose to hold on to it until such a time that one of these broke. It's not my figure, so I'm not going to make the decision for it anyhow. He comes with a gun here. The slots for this guy's hands are really interesting. So the first thing that comes to mind that I noticed is that, let's see if I can zoom in on it. This handle is off-center. It's eccentric, is what we call that in machinist lingos. And so this will fit in one hand, but not in the other hand. So it'll fit right into that hand, and then you'll curl the fingers around, just how you do. But it won't really go into the other one because the tab is in the wrong place. I mean, you can kind of make it work. Actually, I guess you can make it work more easily than I thought you could. But anyhow, so it goes into there. I guess you can put it in another hand. Here I was thinking that the asymmetrical tab was going to throw you off a bit, but it doesn't. So that tab goes into either hand, and that he's got a gun again which has the same tab system. This little gun has a little knife here that goes in, and then he's got this little sheath here for his sword. Sword goes into its sheath. It's got this tab system as well. You can take and switch this tab over to either side, but since the blade is only on one side, you really only need to hold it from one side. This is not glued together, which I'm not saying is a complaint. I'm just noting that that's not glued together. But it's got, you know, this is molded in a this kind of really drab green. Not even drab. It's like kind of a grayish green. I don't even know. This is like really dark teal. That's how I'll describe it. And sculpted really nicely. Silver paint apps on the sheath. Gunmetal on the handle itself. I actually think the handle is probably sculpted in the gunmetal and then painted to match. And that's it. He's got those 3 weapons. And you can do a little bit of weapon storage if you come back here and push this little box right here. That pops open, and you can just kind of fit this in here and then close it back up. You cannot really fit the other gun in there. And oh yeah, did I mention that the box loves to fall off? It's its favorite thing to do on the planet. The box fits onto the back with this little peg with the little ears on the side. Those will line up with divots right there. And I don't know if there was some sort of damage sustained to this copy particularly. It looks like it may be. But in any case, I wonder if maybe it held on, but just like really freaking tightly. But I've seen other people review this figure, and other people complain about the box not staying on, so I don't really know. I have a very small sampling to pick from, so I can't really make any determinations for some sort of systemic problem. But those are it for his accessories. Let's get into his posability for a bit. I'm actually going to take this box off so it stops falling off. His head is on a ball joint. It will look up. Not really down at all, but it will look up a bit. Rotate just fine. A little bit of side to side. His arms will go about just fine, more or less. You've got this this shoulder armor will get in the way of that joint really getting a lot of movement, but if you can cram it out of the way, which actually I can't seem to do that, so maybe you can't cram it out of the way. I had thought that these arms weren't. It's apparently been a while since I played with this figure, even though I just transformed it yesterday. I thought that these were ratcheted, but oh well. These will also come out so he can get a lot of upper range on that. That's also a transformation joint. Nice little hidden piece of paint detail right there. Aside from that, the arms do come out on their own little ratchets there. He has also got a joint here and a rotation here and a rotation here and a rotation here. He's got an elbow joint here These rotations, by the way, are all for transforming him into his tank mode. Cool little layered armor effect on here. You can lay these flat if you really need to, but I think that they are absolutely intended to have that layered effect like samurai armor. Little panel here to clean that up with silver paint app on it. Rotation at the wrist. He's got really posable hands, which is good, but also maybe a tiny bit of a detriment sometimes. The hands just seem kind of finicky and a little fragile at times. But anyhow, each finger is attached to the palm with a ball joint. The thumb has got a pin at the end of this ball joint and a single joint in there. Then each of these fingers has got a single joint to make that all fit up. And because ball joints are what they are and tolerances being what they are, if they're all lined up, these ones seem to all be working just fine. But if you was to like have one twist out of place, then all of a sudden it just becomes floppy McFlopsville. So keep in mind of that. It's not really a problem that it just feels weird. By the way, I forgot to point this out, but he's got a little peg. Woo, there we go. He's got a little peg right here on his side. You can attach this sword sheath either this way, or you can flip it around and put it that way, depending on whether you want to have the edge facing up or facing down when he pulls it out, depending on how extensive your lore of samurais is. All of these little tank pieces are articulated. This is part of what makes it kind of finicky feeling, is that you can never really get them to go exactly how you want. I mean, you can. They kind of just flop around, and then however they end up is like, okay, yeah, that's cool. So it's not like terrible. It feels weird when you're transforming him or imposing him as well. He's got these armors here. These armors are on this like weird armature thing that itself has like 3 or 4 joints. It does peg in. You can see there's a peg right here that pegs into the base, into the armature. It doesn't really hold it super well, but it holds it well enough that, it gives you an idea of where it's supposed to go. But you're going to need to kind of get that out of the way to move him anyhow. Underneath that, you've got another line of treads here. His leg will kick forward that much. It will not kick back at all. There's no leg motion going in reverse. Even if you were to move this out of the way, you've got this whole panel here, which is non-moving. So that is unfortunately not an option. His leg will move out for... let's see if I can get the full Van Damme. Let's see if I can move enough things out of the way to get a full Van Damme. There we go. We'll get a full Van Damme out of him. He's got a thigh swivel here. He's got a lower knee swivel here. Knee bends for... if you get all of his treads out of the way, he'll actually do a really deep double bend at the knee. Susanoo notoriously had photos of him kneeling down, and it works, but there's so much like tread crap in the way that it's really hard to make that knee joint work. You can kind of fudge it if you move this up like that and move this, but still you've got all this tread in the way and there's really no place for it to go. So he has a double jointed knee, but its usefulness is circumspect. Circumspect? I don't know. Questionable. We'll just go with that word. That's a word I know properly. Its usefulness is questionable. Again, more armor, more tread stuff on the back of his leg. These joints are robust enough to hold their position, so you don't really have to worry about them flopping. You can kind of fold them up out of the way like so, and they will, for the most part, stay how you want them to go. You'll need to move them to get full articulation out of the ankle. Again, all the stuff on him moves. You've got this armor section here that, when it's in its robot mode configuration, doesn't really like to get far enough out of the way that it stops moving. He's got a flex on his ankle, plenty of bend on that. By the way, really nice detail applied to the foot with some silver paint app. This toe, by the way, is die cast, as is pretty much his whole foot. Plus, he's got little rubber thingamajigs on his feet, so he stands fairly well. He's got this toe joint here, which is cool, but also kind of sucks because it just comes into play really easily, and I find you end up having him kind of wobble back and forth because his toe doesn't really want to hold his weight. Also, there's a joint that moves this toe out, and it will move itself back in of its own accord because it's possessed. So yes, he's posable, and he will pose in most ways that you want him to pose. It will be kind of finicky to get him into that pose, but you can do it, and he'll hold it. So again, fantastic for display, not as much for playing with, but I think that we can deal with that. So let's just do one last look at him. By the way, I do want to point out one other thing before I keep going into his tank mode. These are accessories that you get in the little baggie. I have already installed them onto this, and I'm going to pull them back off before I give them back to my buddy. They are made out of a somewhat flexible plastic. I want to say that this is probably polyoxymethylene, POM. They are very pointy, so it's got some flex to it, but they are very pointy and fragile. So I would be careful when you've got those applied. They look great, and they do nothing for the robot mode and a lot for the tank mode, so choose accordingly. But that's just something that I want everyone to think about. I'm going to take this off for the transformation because I am not a fool. We're going to put this in here with a tank. You've got this little... I'm not a tanker, so I don't know exactly what this is called, but this is a part, and I think that points up. So I'm going to stick it in there like so. Also, you'll see that this keyhole is a little oblong, and I think that's meant to accommodate this bump right here. So slide that in, take his gun here. You want to rotate this barrel all the way around and then disconnect these little quad things. Fold this up. That peg will plug in right there. Take and separate these. Bring out this little peg. And then just attach them into these little holes right here. These are identical, so they're not going to be symmetrical. One of them, this peg, is going to stick off that way, and the other one's going to stick off that way. So if you're okay with that, great. It kind of bugs my inner OCD a little bit, but that's why he's inner and not outer. So to get this guy transformed up, we're going to start with the arms. First thing we're going to do is push down his head. Actually, first thing we're going to do is we're going to yank up his body. That extends up quite a bit. Why is he fighting me? Okay, this head is supposed to go down, but it's fighting me for some reason. It never fought me before. Of course, I never had the chance to talk about it on camera before either, so possibly that's the reason. Anyhow, so what you want to do, forgive my unprofessional jump cuts. I think my phone is disagreeing with my microphone, so oh well. Anyhow, so what you want to do with these is you want to grab onto his arm up here, and you want to kind of pull it out, because you've got this cam up here that's on a spring. So you want to pull that out, rotate that around, see how this is sticking out now, and then push it back in. That will allow this shoulder to sit in a different angle and make this whole thing possible. So do that for the other side. And now what we're gonna do is pull this out, rotate it around. This is just held on with a simple peg, so it might fall out. I don't know. I did have to, by the way, go in. You can see where this nub is here, that dark spot. That nub stuck out quite a bit when it came out of the box. I had to shave that so that it fit just fine. So it's always a little bit of a bummer when a figure that you pay money for requires some DIY right out of the box, but I'm not really a guy who shies away from DIY, so it's not as big of a bummer to me, but I recognize that not everybody likes doing that. Okay, so what you want to do here is you want to rotate all of these parts so that the screws are facing in. This is going to be the inside, this panel is going to be the outside. So we're going to take that and go like that and go like that. We're going to straighten this part out. We're going to straighten this part out. And then we're going to bend this right here. So as we bend that, there's like a slider that it's on that will come out and slide it into the right position. And then we're going to tuck this away in there. And I'm just going to kind of hold this in that position for now. So let's do the same to the other arm real quick. Put the screws facing in. Straighten out these panels. Park that. Bend that. So now what we want to do is you've got a hole here and a hole here and two little tabs right here. So you want to bring these up. And I didn't put the hands into place because it's really, really helpful at this point to be able to push in your finger from behind. You want to put this little peg right here into that hole. And then you want to make sure that this tab, these little tabs here, seat into those holes. Like so. Perfect. And now we'll come around to the other side and we'll maneuver this into its position. You've got a tab here and a corresponding hole on the other arm. Those will help to align it. And then you've got these tabs right here, and those are going to fit into these little slots on that shoulder armor, like so. It's not exactly the prettiest fit, but it works fairly well. So now you've got this all in its position. So the upper body, the arms are done. So now for the lower legs, you want to take and unhook this right here. That will allow the legs to swing out, And then with the legs swung out, you can take this and bend this around. Now this is kind of a really weird position that you find yourself in, because basically you've got all this stuff that you need to make work, and there's nowhere to really park it until you make it work. So just bear with me and we'll get this working. So first thing you want to do is you want to bring this up around. You've got this bar hangs off to that side, and that's where it goes to slide under this. Now what we're going to do is we're going to bring this around so it faces the other way. You can open this up a bit, give yourself some space. You want to take and rotate his thigh to get all the wheels facing in the same direction. And then you want to you can fold this around a little bit, bring this up, collapse that foot, squeeze that part in, bring that down like so, and then bring this around like so. So that is the basic function of the foot. Now, this has got like a double hinge in here that allows this part to go backwards and forwards. It's ultimately going to go forwards. So you'll kind of bring it forward and push it down. And then you can take this panel. Watch out for these, by the way. These panels like to come off super easily, and they will. Also, I forgot to mention, just kind of did it when I was pushing on it. This panel is up for robot mode. You want to slide that down for tank mode. And then what you want to do is you want to go and get this piece into those tabs. You've got these corresponding tabs here. You want to kind of push those together there. And then on the back of this armor, you want to do the same thing. Oh, let's take this piece right here. This is where the sword attached on. You want to fold it around so that peg disappears. Come on. Come on. Ooh, thread that into there. While I'm here, I'm going to pull this panel out. So that is ultimately how that goes. And then let's go down here, make sure this is in place, and make sure this is in place, make sure this is in place. And now what you want to do is you want to take, we're going to bring this down. I'm going to bring this down so I don't have to hold it up as much. I can just lay it down. You want to take that tread and kind of pull it. This is also another palm piece, and it will slide into a little slot here. Just pull it and squeeze it in. Come on. Come on. There we go. And then do the same for the other side. There we go. So there's a little bit of slack on these treads, but really not much. And that's one side all done. So let's get into the other side again, because it's basically the same. I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail. It will mostly be the same as how the first side was. So we're going to take this, bring that around, push that flush. Bring that out. Bring that out. Bring this shin armor up. Oh, there's that piece trying to escape. Squeeze the toe, fold it in, fold the heel in, fold the knee in. And then this whole thing is going to go forward as much as it will. Rotate this around. And then there we go. Plug that in. Thread that into there. Like so. Boom. And then this one, thread that in like so. Boom. And then all I gotta do is get the treads to fit. So we'll take and stretch this one down. Take this one and stretch this one over. Make sure that everything is properly in its place. These armors rotate around, so you want to make sure that you rotate them so that they all line up. This tank turret will go back onto here. And there you have him, Arashi, in his tank mode. And so there you go. He looks great. He's a good looking tank. I still have no idea what tank this is supposed to be. It looks vaguely Soviet to me. If you know, go ahead and leave a comment down below in the doobly-doo. Actually, that's not the doobly-doo, that's the comments. But yeah, if you know, let me know. I'm kind of intrigued, but despite having a bajillion links, these tanks do not roll. He will not be rolling about. The tread rotates. It even clicks a little bit. That's swanky. No up and down movement on it whatsoever. No motion on this little gun here. Little antennas look great. You can move this antenna. I think it's supposed to be like that because that's how it is on the Hasbro toy. So I think it's supposed to be at an angle. But yeah, there he is. He looks good from the back. He looks good from the front. Oh man, I lost a panel. Those panels fall out so easily. They don't even feel like they click into place. They just kind of go there and they're held in place by dreams and bullshit. So but there he is in his tank mode. It's a good looking tank mode. I think it looks great. But ultimately, his robot mode looks much nicer and he's not terribly fun or convenient to transform. So if you were a wise person, and I'm not saying you are, you'd probably keep him in his robot mode. So transformation, unfortunately, is less relevant. It's kind of like Fans Toys before Fans Toys was super huge. Actually, was it? I don't know. My timeline's off. But anyhow, that's Arashi, and I think it's okay. I personally have the Hasbro one, actually of the same color. and I think it looks great, and I think it's fine for me. But if you want a larger, more masterpiece scaled Bonsaitron, then maybe this is the way to go for you. I think it's an alright figure. Good for display, bad for play. But anyhow, thanks everybody for watching. You guys are fantastic. Everybody stay awesome and be good to each other. See ya.